a company is trying to minimize turnover, which every company is. I mean, I really think looking first to people that are within your organization that have already been successful, that are committed. I mean, I feel like that's naturally the best place to start. But it might require that you might have to build on that person's skill set. And again, I think that's why it's so important to be able to connect in with our various institutions within the market here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Framework Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Engel, president of Southeastern University. And of course, joining me is our amazing co-host, Michael Steiner, SCU Senior Vice President for Advancement and Innovation. And excited today to introduce our guest for the show, Sean Malott. Sean serves as president and CEO of the Central Florida Development Council, where he's responsible for leading economic development strategy for Polk County, Central Florida. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's an honor to have a conversation with you. And we'll start off. Let's talk about the organization. And it's been driving the economy forward for well over 30 years now. And you've been the president for, almost a decade?
Pretty close,
Pretty close to that. So tell us a little bit about the CFDC and how you're trying to shape the future of where we get to live and do life.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate that. And the organization over that time has taken different forms. And, its current form is a public-private partnership. So we have private investors that are with our organization, which really are community leaders throughout the area, businesses. Southeastern's a key partner. And then, the county as a whole with county government. So our commissioners are a great advocate for economic development in this area. So we're, proud to have that relationship with the county commission and our our cities, and we have city economic development partners within many of our cities as well. So really, it takes a village to be able to do economic development, really stay at the forefront of what's happening from an industry perspective. And really, the goal is to enhance community well-being, both economically, also from a quality of life perspective, and really drive opportunity for people here in Polk County to be able to achieve their dreams and from prosperity in general. So kind of tied into that economic advancement.
Yeah, in your leadership, I mean, you get to work with so many organizations, businesses, entrepreneurs. What leadership trait have you or habit have you discovered or found that is really effective in coming alongside, encouraging, empowering, leading in the business world? Yeah,
again, there's I think a host of things that I see out within our business community, but the thing that resonates with me very well is authenticity.
Yes. Yeah.
Is really looking at leaders who lead from the heart and what they really truly believe, not just related to what it is they're doing in their organization, but on a broader perspective. And I think to me, it's thinking about really the authentic style of leadership. And I think there's a real need for people to be able to really truly lead from that realm, and that appeals to me in particular.
Yeah, I love it. And part of what you guys do is helping attract businesses to the area. I mean, that's kind of the main driver, the strategies, different things like that. Yeah. So how do you stay ahead of that curve? It involves you guys being able to look ahead, decide what's the most important thing for the county to be thinking about in order to attract businesses. So how do you do that? How do you keep that long vision forward? How do you kind of cultivate those strategies?
Yeah, no, that's key, right? To what it is that it's a good fit for our community. Mm-hmm. When a business is looking at an area, and we're focused on attracting, attracting quality businesses to our community, and also working with existing businesses as they want to grow and expand. And when they grow and expand, we want them to expand in Polk County.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, if you're a business in today's environment, it's a global economy. There are lots of really wonderful places that you can locate, that you can grow. And really, we're focused on, the attractiveness of Polk County and what that means, from a livability perspective, but also, again, kind of the basic from a taxation and regulatory environment. In Polk County, we've been, very business oriented to be able to be a place where a business can succeed without really putting putting too much undue burden on them from a regulatory perspective. That's a benefit of Florida, I would say, in many cases. Of course, here in this location, it's our geographic proximity to other places. Right, so you can have a really wonderful quality of life here within Polk, really any of our cities, and I would say each of our various cities have character that appeals to a variety of people and interests. But then you can also very easily go and work or play or go out to dinner in Tampa or Orlando or many other places. And so it's like that proximity and that connectivity I think is really key, and that's a lot of what we promote. We promote is you can kind of have a little the best of everything.
Wow.
And that really the center of everything here. And I would say that people are learning that as we are now one of the fastest growing places in the country. That it has been somewhat of a secret, and the secret is out. There's a lot of opportunity there. Of course, there's challenges that come with growth, but really it presents a whole new set of of endeavors that again, students that are coming through the university here. Not only could they find quality of employment opportunities here in Polk County, but also in close proximity. But we're continually competing with other locations. And that's the continual piece.
What are some of the big trends you guys are seeing right now? Like what's coming next for this area? What are the things that leaders in our community we need to be keeping an eye on with you?
I mean, so I would say a lot of is supply chain oriented.
Okay.
Meaning that the world is very focused on domestic production of our goods and our services, from what we buy to what we make from a defense industry, aviation, aerospace, that those products are made domestically. And this area has been, because of that connectivity, because of that proximity, has been very appealing to the logistics industry. And therefore, you see that manufacturers are also tied into. They're seeing where companies have gone to be able to distribute goods, and now they're very focused on where can they manufacture those items and connect. But a manufacturing entity nowadays is very technology oriented.
Sure.
And so that it's key that we have the workforce that has that technical ability to be able to manage in that type of environment today. And so that is a piece that we're seeing right now. Manufacturing is leading from a growth perspective in Polk County, but we also see that tying into an R&D, research and technology component. We'd like to see that really flourish in our environment as well. And again, I think that Southeastern is key to that, to have that that talent and to help those students stay here in the market, or at least have opportunities for them. So when they're looking at all the wonderful job again that are coming to them, that they can also have an opportunity to stay here and be close.
Some of the best talent pipelines come from within.
Sure.
And so how do you help these amazing businesses here in Central Florida, in Polk County, not just hire talent, but truly and actively develop and elevate employees into leadership roles?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely encourage, our companies to get in, get connected to the community, to be able to connect in with, the leadership development institutions and programs in the area. And we really have a group of companies that really do look, internally first.
Right.
And I would say that really Southeastern has been a really, a really good steward of that. As whenever I come on your campus, or I'm always meeting people that, again, new team members that started here as students. So you're great stewards of that. So we encourage that, and again, I think that's key. So if a company is trying to minimize turnover, which every company is. I mean, I really think looking first to people that are within your organization that have already been successful, that are committed. I mean, I feel like that's naturally the best place to start. But it might require that you might have to build on that person's skill set. And again, I think that's why it's so important to be able to connect in with our various institutions within the market here.
And so, a business leader might be listening to this podcast, hearing you talk and saying, man, where are you guys getting this talent? I would love to get some talent. What advice would you give them for finding and getting talent from within Polk County? What would you recommend?
Well, I mean, first is you got to let people know.
Yeah.
Right. In essence, word of mouth nowadays is a great start, but you need to be, getting the information out that you are looking for talent. I also think that you have to pay, realistic wages.
Okay.
Again, I think that's a really important piece that sometimes gets overlooked. I think at times there's this mindset that, well, you can pay a little less in Polk County. I don't have to pay Tampa wages, don't have to pay Orlando wages. But the reality is that you're competing with those places.
Right.
And not only that, you're also competing what someone could earn just being a remote worker as well. So really, it is much more competitive from a workforce perspective. So you have to think about that.
Sure. Yeah.
How to connect in. So I think getting the word out. Again, if you're not naturally, distributing that information, but definitely there's kind of a multitude of channels to be able to do that. But then I think it's also looking at what you offer as a company. What do you offer, beyond just the from a wage and benefit perspective, but also what's it like? What's a person's day, within that organization? What can you offer, to that candidate or to your workforce to make them want to be committed and stay involved in the organization. So I think it's a whole piece of not only are you offering livelihood, but also offering a place that people want to come to every day and look forward to coming to.
Yeah, I mean, Central Florida is an amazing place to live. In fact, it's actually one of the fastest growing areas in the nation here, and it's just amazing to see. A lot of our students decide to actually stay here and be a part of this community, whether it's in business, education, whatever it might be. What kind of strategies have you found as you collaborate together with local businesses and companies in developing the local talent and making Polk County truly a place where top professionals want to stay and build their careers? How do you cultivate that and build it in such a way that they just have no hesitation? I want to be here.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that ties into quality of life.
Yeah.
That as a whole, there are kind of multitude of institutions and organizations to be able to help build place. I think one of the things that Polk County has been very committed to as a community, that is the environmental lands program, is ability really to be able to purchase and enhance our green spaces within the county. That I think has been a very wise investment. That we have wonderful parks and recreation available for for the broader community. That again, I think it starts with, is it a place that people want to be? Sure. And I think that we're seeing that we are growing significantly. That that investment into parks to recreation is an economic development strategy. You have to invest in that piece to be able to attract quality businesses, to be able to attract talent to the area. I mean, I think that's key part of it. And I would say, once upon a time that was maybe looked at something separate, but I think it's all connected to that. So, and that is now, I think, just really integral to the enhancement of a community.
Yeah. I know you're committed to wanting to provide a lot of resource to help organizations and businesses to flourish, to grow. What's your approach in terms of coming alongside helping these businesses to develop like high performing teams and things like that just help them to become stronger and more present in Central Florida?
Yeah, I think that's key.
Yep.
You know, that's key is a quality team. I know it's extremely important for our organization and getting the right team members in the right position and that cohesion. So again, we are an advocate for leadership development and promotion of that again, getting involved from a higher ed perspective, getting involved with our career and technical education programs, because they're getting a variety of resources available, for a business in this area. And oftentimes we're connecting with a business when they're going through some type of a growth strategy.
Right.
And we have, programs to be able to help from a tax basis from a company that's looking to grow and expand. And so that oftentimes is kind of the way that we enter into the fold. Because there's some interest in how we can help incentivize a company be able to grow and expand here, and there's this thought behind it is that of course it does help them from a bottom line perspective, but to me it's also showing that company that the community cares. The community wants to be involved in your success.
Right. Yep.
We
Absolutely.
have this we may have this tax incentive program, but really it's showing and demonstrating that that the Polk County cares enough to want to be a part of your success and part of your trajectory. And when you think about that next manufacturing facility that you're opening, that you're also thinking about how to that Polk County is the right place. And I think that when it comes to workforce in particular, that's the key part of the equation. So when a company is looking at a community, of course they're evaluating real estate, but really they're looking to see are the people there within the area that are going to be connected to kind of their long-term objectives. Sure. And if you don't have the right people and the people aren't available, you're not going to be able to just recruit everybody into an area. Sure. I mean, you have to know that they're there first.
And I think what's one of the unique things about a CFDC, is you guys have that county level view. So, we've met with some of the LEDC leaders and other business leaders, and it's very focused on the city, which is awesome. You guys have the responsibility of saying, okay, Lakeland's doing this, Winter Haven's doing this, Bartow's doing this. We're hearing that there's someone looking somewhere across the board. That takes a lot of collaboration. So what have been some of the keys you have learned on how to coordinate all these people that sometimes have super different perspectives on things? How does that work for you guys?
No, absolutely. And I think that is so true. Every one of our communities has its own unique viewpoint, had its own unique perspective, have their own community amenities. And so oftentimes we are going to be the first point of contact for a consultant or a company that's evaluating, Polk County as a whole. Probably we may have just shown up on a spreadsheet that says like we need to be looking at this community because they're growing and there's people moving to the area, and that's a key part is like have a growing population, from an attraction perspective, so that oftentimes they're coming in that front door, but then our goal is to be able to highlight the best throughout the county. And we work closely with our economic development community to be able to share that, allow them to really share the strengths of their area. Again, it's not for me to decide what's the best opportunity for Lakeland or Winter Haven or Fort Meade. It's really up to the community and the company to decide on that perspective. So really we try to stay objective. As I say, location agnostic, that we want you to pick Polk. And we think that, for most businesses, there's going to be a fit within 2,000 square miles of our area. And that's kind of first and foremost. And and if that isn't a fit, then we want you close by. We maybe want you in one of our neighboring counties, because again, from a workforce perspective, you may live in Lakeland, but if the job is over in again in Plant City, really that is something that is going to enhance that person, that work, that employees. Again, that's close by too.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a job perspective, we're definitely focused in on this area, but yet also from a tax perspective, we want that investment here. In the community. So it's working with our communities on what their goals are and trying to present that to a company as an option. And real estate's helpful. Definitely real estate's always helpful.
That's key to it. Most of the time, the longevity of a team is the result of its frameworks or systems in a business. When it comes to CFDC, what key systems or structures do you have in place for the counties to really create the future success of our county?
Yeah. So, we have, when you talk about like the framework in essence, so we have the interests of the county commission and the commissioners, as far as what, their goals and priorities are from a policy perspective. And then we also have the private business community and what their interests are, and what they see is a good fit. So really we're continually kind of moving between that network to be able to marry up those interests. And fortunately, like I said, we've been a business forward community. And I believe that will continue, with the leadership that we have in place. But it is driven by that collaborative effort between public interests and private interests. And really, that was the goal behind our organization, as we used to be a public entity, purely a public entity. So therefore, kind of marrying up that localized business interest into the leadership. So that, when it comes to, initiatives that, the Central Florida Development Council is involved in, that we are thinking through how it impacts, those various groups. So that, when you talk about a framework, that is definitely a framework of how you start with that piece of it. And I think about from a framework perspective too. And, when I think about teams, I think about at all different levels, right? So you can be you can be a leader kind of at every level, but it is your framework, right? Your guardrails, your framework, your mindset.
Exactly.
You might be technically at the bottom of an org chart, but you have a framework of how you can lead within that piece. And I feel like that's always, what the naming of the podcast has always kind of again resonated with me because I think about that framework, and I think everybody has a framework of how to connect.
Yeah, and you talked a couple of minutes ago about you're always looking ahead, and that is key for an organization, for businesses. We say it around here, we are always answering the question, how do you build a map to a place you've never been before? Because if you're going to grow, you're going to be healthy, you have to constantly build the process, the system to get you there. How do you approach big picture planning while still making an impact in the present, but yet you do build the future?
Well, I would say that looking at some of the strengths and the talents of our area and what is investing in this community, so for Polk in particular, there's the autonomous research facility SunTrax that's being built near Interstate 4, and so we see that as an economic engine. Future economic engine, if you have the right collaborative environment to be able to bring businesses to the community that want to connect to what they're doing. Wow. And it's a process. It's a like I said, it's a Department of Transportation initiative, so it's a big entity. But there are resources in the area, to be able to connect from, so we started thinking about what can we do to be able to really market that initiative. And so that, that was connected into some of the, again, the higher ed, talent in the area as well, to create the Central Florida Innovation District. So thinking about, what's innovative about that area is going to be what's happening at SunTrax. There's of course the public, university, Florida Poly, that's in that area, their close proximity. And so, before, kind of on a sidebar, before I was at the Central Florida Development Council, I had a stint at Florida Poly from an industry collaboration effort. And, really, as Florida Poly was starting out, Southeastern was one of the great friends and advocates from a university perspective. Many of the initial, professors at Florida Poly were kind of on loan from Southeastern. And so really how you at the early stages were connected to what they're doing. And so we see that area, as a place that could be a future tech hub for companies that want to kind of straddle that position between Tampa and Orlando. So thinking about, okay, so there's these investments happening in this area, how do we leverage that? There's land, there's available land that, if the right thought process is done, could be, developed in something different than what is already here. And I think about the companies that could locate there, that, that want to tie into the talent, not just, again, it's a location, right? So Florida Poly may be down the road, but Southeastern's also down the road too. And so that piece of it, we want that to grow into a place that there is research and technology innovation directly coming out of that area, that a company wants to be there because of proximity to SunTrax, proximity to the quality of higher ed talent in the area, from the research, the professors. So, but that's something that's not in our market today.
Right.
And that requires many steps, to be able to get to that place. And so, kind of looking at some of the natural attributes of why, especially in a world where maybe part of your workforce is remote, maybe, and again, maybe some of this is changing a little bit as some, some employers are bringing some people back to the office. But again, I think that remote is a great strategy for many businesses out there, and will continue to be. And so, but how do you have a centrally located, place for training, for leadership, for development, professional development that could be, within, really proximity of 11 million people. So if you look at a 100-mile radius of our area, roughly there's 11 million consumers in this market. That also, that's a giant workforce that's available. So you could be located, and maybe your team member doesn't come to your office every day, but you might want them there for significant events. And so if you have a place that's, again, well connected, well located, that there's, again, you'll have an advantage from a talent perspective. And
and I know for us, as we're constantly, we push. In fact, one of our frameworks is innovation. How do you create new curves of growth and collaboration? And I know, for example, we have 36 acres over off of Highlands, which is a couple of miles from here. And we're always thinking about ways to partner with organizations. How could we maybe do a joint effort that serves Southeastern, but yet we can serve with the community as well, and partner together on, whether that's building facilities that serve, whoever we would partner with, or whatever it might be. But again, to kind of hit all the issues we've talked about in terms of, creating collaborative organizations to make this place to develop pipeline talent. We've got students to be able to be developed, and it's just so many things we can do. So I know that's always on our mind as we grow and develop. It's not just about how do we grow Southeastern, but how do we make even Central Florida better through partnership with who we are.
And that's why we love our partnership with the CFDC. And we've been a long, time supporter, a part of all the different things that you do. You guys provide such a wealth of information for us as we're doing strategic planning. And I think maybe there's some business leaders here listening. They're not aware that you guys are even there. So tell us a little bit. How does a business get involved with the CFDC? What does that mean? What are the different? What are the ways they can kind of connect with you guys? And what would they get from that connection kind of right off the bat?
And I would say that's the key reason why we have the business community involved is from a collaborative effort so that not only are they, collaborating with us, but they're collaborating with each other. Community-minded leadership that are thinking about how to improve, and they want to be connected to that because they know ultimately at the end of the day it's helpful for their business. Right. So one of the benefits is from a networking perspective, being around other like-minded members. Yeah. So we have a membership as an organization as well. So that's a component for those businesses that are looking to connect with each other. To be able to work on projects, to be able to maybe even from a supplier perspective or other firms that they can do business with. So that's definitely that's a component of what we do and important part of our leadership. But really first and foremost, it's about how to build quality of place. Focus specifically on industrial and commercial opportunities with our market. Definitely, CFDC.org is our website where you can learn a lot about our organization. Most of the information that we have is freely available on our website for a company that maybe is in the Northeast. Today that's being impacted by a snowstorm or whatever time of year it is that they're listening to this. And it's one of those things that there's no better place to be. Yeah. Florida has so many wonderful attributes, and really there's we kind of joke about that. People are coming here. When they retire, why not come early? Bring your business.
Right.
I think that's really catching on. That companies are coming to the area. So we're an entry point for a business that's looking to this area. We have partners, around our county, from other EDCs, but also from a state level, from a regional level. We really want to be helpful to a company as they're thinking about making a decision. We of course think we're the right decision, but really they have to come to that conclusion themselves. Really putting the information in their hands. We can't make a fit. They have to make that decision, and it's. It's a process that every business goes through, every business leader goes through, and we like to present the best framework for that. And I would say that a big piece of that, really, large piece is that workforce piece, and that's really key to how you help us tell the story. Oftentimes that's when we have new people to Polk County. A lot of times the reason they're coming here is they're coming to tour, the campus.
Right.
They're coming to tour the campus here, and again, the presentation that you have and your team has here, amazing, and wonderful students. That's going to be their first entrance, to learn about the community, and that's key. And I would say that that is one of the things that we hear back is like, the first time I came to Lakeland, first time I came to Polk County is I was visiting Southeastern.
Yeah.
And that's
love it.
Part telling the story.
Yeah, and that's our commitment, and that's what we love. When students come and set foot on this campus, they just begin to fall in love not only with us, but they fall in love with this area. They fall in love with Lakeland, Polk County, all of Central Florida, and again, many of them stay and get great jobs here, and we're grateful for that. So we're committed to that and collaborating and serving in every way we can and come alongside CFDC. Great conversations today. We just privileged to have you here today and to have this conversation, and we want to continue to serve.
Well, I definitely appreciate, the university and your leadership and Dr. Steiner's leadership. It's been, I've really enjoyed learning about Southeastern and, and seeing what you do within the community and how the university really supports leaders. Again, I think it's an inspiration. So, I think if a business is out there, they just need to look and see what Southeastern is doing.
Absolutely.
Get great stewards of what's possible. So I appreciate being here.
Love it. And if you want to stay up to date with Sean, you can follow him on X and Instagram at Sean Malott. And as you said, you can make sure to check out the Central Florida Development Council at CFDC.org. Lots of great resources, informations if you are building a business in Polk County. Thank you so much for listening to Framework Leadership, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Well, thanks for joining us on Framework Leadership. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe so leadership insights keep coming your way. You can also catch every episode on your favorite podcast platforms and look for bonus resources. Subscribe to the Framework Leadership newsletter at kentingle.com. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Kent_Ingle and at Dr. Michael Steiner, on X at Kent_Ingle, and at Facebook at Kent Ingle to stay up to date with the podcast and everything happening at Southeastern University.
Thanks for being part of the community.